if you're getting paid to visit a restaurant, it's going to be really, really hard for you to be completely objective. This is terrible. I can't believe you've done this. I'm like, what are you talking about? How dare you give my burger a lower score than my competitors?
So the ego needs to get out the window.
You need to get the ego out of the window. Like my thing, I encourage any food blogger watching, take the sunglasses off in your video.
Welcome back to the Chef JKP podcast. And on the show today, we have the absolute honour of having Alex Augusti, aka Just Food DXB. Alex, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
First things first, Chief.
Yeah.
Can you tell me your first or favourite childhood food memory?
Oh, that's a good one. To be honest, I spent a lot of time in Cyprus growing up. Like, my family's Greek and my grandfather's like as Cypriot as it comes. And he was like a master chef. Like, he'd spend all day in the kitchen or in front of the barbecue. We were always eating. He was always preparing food. And he used to just make, he'd make like Greek koftedas, which are like Greek meatballs, parsley and onion, and then you just dip it in tzatziki sauce. And he made fantastic versions of those. And I just remember sitting on the terrace at my grandparents' house, just enjoying his food all summer long, like for 10 years straight. So,
wow, that sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Number one, how involved were you involved at all in the prep, or were you just running around, beach, whatever?
No, I was. We'd stay around the house because our parents used to just send me and my sister over to Cyprus to stay with our family, with our grandparents and our aunties and uncles, and then they'd stay in the UK. So we didn't spend a lot of time down at the beaches. We'd just stay up at the house. We'd just be chilling and relaxing, reading books and stuff. But my memory is just having like my grandfather just constantly in the kitchen. So if you wanted to speak to him, you had to go in the kitchen. you had to be there, otherwher you would never see him. It's simple as that.
And would he allow you to sort of get involved in the cooking a little bit, or not really?
Not really, no. Not really. You could watch and observe and ask questions, but yeah, no, that was his like pride and joy.
So then, as an adolescent, growing up, what were the sort of foods that you were tending to lean towards?
To be honest, like, I used to work in a kitchen from the age of, I think, 13 up until I think it was 18 actually. So it was like a local restaurant in a small part of Devon, called the House of Marbles, because we used to make marbles there. And it was more like British pub grub, kind of like gastropub style food. And then I kind of worked from pot washer up into obviously the kitchen. And then it was just basically, that's what I'd be enjoying the most is like a lot of British, like classic British food.
So then as you sort of stepped into the kitchen for the first time as a 13-year-old, that was part-time, of course, because you were doing school. So that was on a weekend?
It was, yeah. But like, on the weekends, I'd work both days on the weekend. And then as soon as it comes to the summer holiday, I'd work every single day in the holiday. Like,
so you must have loved it.
I was doing like 7 days a week, yeah. Well, when my mum ran the front of house, so she used to just force me into the kitchen. It was like every day I had a day off, like I get a phone call, it's like, oh, you're coming back into work.
So, I love the fact that she'd forced me in.
Yeah.
But apart from being forced, what was the thing that you loved the most about being in that environment?
I love the energy of a kitchen. Is just like, I say to this day, it's the most stressful job I've ever had and will ever have. Like, the pressure of work, going from a breakfast service doing 200 covers straight into a lunch service doing 300 covers. It's just chaos, but you get a real adrenaline rush from it. And I love food from a really young age. So I was constantly helping myself. Everything I made for a customer, I'd make a version of it for me. So I was just eating constantly while I was there.
Wow. But, was there ever a time, sort of through your educational path after high school, that you'd think to yourself, you want to be in culinary full time, or was it more that it was a family thing?
So it was offered it to me. So the head chef at the restaurant was like, look, we'll pay for all your courses and accreditations. We'll send you to chefing school if you want to pursue this career. But my dad, being a chef, he was like, there's no money in it. Like, it's a dead end. Obviously, his generation, he was classically French trained, and then he worked on the cruise ships and worked in a number of restaurants. And it's not like now where you can have a social media presence and chefs have become a bit of a personality. He was like, there's no money in it. It's a dead end. You're not doing it. I've done it for years. So he wanted to try and push me more into the sales background rather. than going to chefing school.
So then, during university and that kind of thing, what did you decide to study?
I didn't go to university. So I got a job at the bank. So I was working for Lloyd's Bank. I started as a welcome officer. So I used to have a satin green sash and I'd be
sexy.
Welcome. It was very sexy, like a Miss Universe one. So it used to be...
They couldn't miss you.
No, exactly. Like it used to be a girl that used to do the job. And then I started and I didn't have my accreditations for the cashier yet. So they were like, well, look, it's kind of sexist if we don't put you in the sash. So I then had to wear this sash and my mates used to come in and tease me every weekend. Yeah. So love that.
So then what did you decide to go into in the end? So after the bank, what was your sort of path?
So I went from the bank, and then that's when my sister moved to Dubai, and she worked for a company called Terrapin. So we were doing like events, sponsorship, and sales and stuff. So she had a job at Terrapin, and then she managed to get me a job over here. So I think at 21, I moved over to Dubai and just started working in sales.
Okay,
and that was fun.
But then if we fast forward to what you're currently doing now, what would you say was the catalyst for you to actually really move forward? So
it was around Corona time, and I just started with a new company, and they promised me the world. Big package, you'd be out on the road, face-to-face meetings, you'd barely be on the phones. Lockdown came in and it was like, there's a laptop, there's a phone, cold call 1,000 people a day, just pitch them this brand new software solution. And it was miserable. It was real like misery. And I was like, what am I doing? I was trying to think how old I was at the time. I think I was like 25 or 26. And I was like, I can't be doing this for the rest of my life. It's going to drive me crazy. So I started having to think of like, what do I actually enjoy doing? And I love food. I knew I love food. And I asked my friends like what I was good at, and they were like, you're really good at telling stories. So I was like, okay, how do I tie in food and stories? And I was like, okay, I'll start a food blogging page and just highlight some of my favorite places around Dubai. And it was at the time, obviously, in lockdown where a lot of restaurants needed help. You were getting messages on your deliveries, thanks for supporting us in this hard time. So I was like, if I can drive like 10 extra people to this restaurant, then it's worthwhile. So like that's what kind of drove me at the start. And then as soon as I launched the page, I think I got like 400 followers in the first day, and it was like it just immediately everyone was like, when's the next video, but
what was because obviously you don't just become a natural at it straight away. What was the most sort of challenging part in the beginning for you?
The thing is that I never made a video. I didn't even have Instagram. Like, I hated social media. So it was like going from having never been on social media to all of a sudden that's your full-time job and having to figure it all out.
Whoa.
And then a couple of months after that, it's obviously trying to monetize it. It's like, how on earth do you turn it from a hobby into a job? That was the toughest part.
Because also it's very niche to sort of start slowly, but your path actually grew exponentially quite quickly, right?
Yeah, so I started on TikTok really, really early, like when TikTok was in its peak in Dubai. And I think I was saying on the podcast the other day, like the first 3 videos I posted on Instagram got like 200 views. And then my third video on TikTok got 400,000 views.
Mental.
So it was, so after that, it just, I was like, okay, I need to focus on TikTok. And I done a load of content on TikTok, and then those people were migrating to Instagram, and it just allowed me to just grow much, much quicker.
And where did the name come from?
Honestly, it's ironically, I understand why he does it now. But when I used to watch Mark Wien's content on YouTube, it was, I'm here with my friend Diego. We got on the train and we stayed at this hotel and we've got in the taxi. And I was like, just show me the food. That's all I care about. Just show me the food. So it was just food, like no bullshit, just food. That's what it was.
Okay.
But now, like, I do YouTube. I understand like why you need to do that. It's more like narrative building. But at the time I was like, just show me the food. Like, that's all I cared about.
So roughly how many reviews have you done since the first one?
I reckon probably about 700.
700?
Yeah, probably about 700. Like, when I consider I've done like 900 posts, and a lot in the early days were like, it was like a video, like a restaurant, every single video.
Because the other thing is, and I think it's really important to touch upon it, is the difference between, as you said, influencers,
yes,
food bloggers.
Yeah.
Because, as I'm sure you're more than aware than I am, influencers get an incredibly bad reputation.
Yeah.
Right. How do you, as you know, you're not only making money from this, monetizing this, you're quite serious in the game. Nearly 700 plus restaurants, eateries.
Yeah.
Your knowledge must be a lot.
It's a lot better.
It's a lot better than it was.
Yeah.
But because it's a tricky river to navigate.
It is,
right?
Yeah.
So what is the main difference between like an influencer, let's say, and a food blogger?
Everyone's got their own definition. In my mind, it's if you're getting paid to do coverage for a restaurant, you're an influencer. The thing that kind of pushed me at the start to try and get it right and do something different was, I remember when I was starting this, influencers was normally like an attractive woman. She was sat at a table, there was 100 dishes in front of her, and there was a photo with maybe like the tag of the restaurant. And it was like, it tells me nothing. I don't know anything about the restaurant. I don't know what dishes to order. Is the food good? Is the service good? So the videos right from the start were 60-second clips telling you like where to go, what to order, how much it costs. So it was trying to give people all the information they needed in order to go to the restaurant and enjoy it. And obviously at the start, I was only highlighting like my best places. So it was really, really simple to do. The problem then you have is like when you start earning money from it, there's a natural conflict of interest. There's no way around it. Like if you're getting paid to visit a restaurant, it's going to be really, really hard for you to be completely objective on their food. And especially in this region where you're not allowed to defame a business or say negative things, like it's a minefield trying to navigate it. And it's something to this day I still struggle with, is how do you balance the business side with the authenticity and the organic side of it? And it's, you just have to do the best you can. Like I can still confidently say I do the best I possibly can at doing that. And I turn down a lot of restaurants. Like I think I turned down 6 this morning. So and all of them willing to pay full rates for it. But people don't see that. They only see the positive and they're like, oh, everything's good, which is what you kind of say.
But then how would you, what do restaurants then get wrong when it comes to the hiring or choosing the specific influencer or blogger or writer for their restaurants?
I think over here, they just look at the numbers. How many followers do you have? They don't care if the demographic is completely skewed to the complete opposite to their restaurant. They just look at how many followers can you get and how many views. And it's like I see a lot of restaurants, and they'll employ dancers and artists and musicians and stuff like that to try and promote their restaurant. It's like, look, you're a restaurant. You need to be working with someone in the food space because foodies follow foodies. Like that's the way it works. So I think restaurants need to just do a lot more due diligence on the people they work with. Don't just look at the number of the followers. Like people have really good engagement early on, and just make sure it fits the vibe of your restaurant. If you're offering, pani puri and satwa, you don't need to go spend a fortune on some blogger from America to come over. But a local blogger with a good following will probably get you better results. Because
it must be crazy. And what I mean by that is, there's in excess of 13,000 plus restaurants here.
Yeah.
Just in Dubai.
Yeah.
Then we have Abu Dhabi, Fujairah, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
So it must be very difficult. But also, does it, and I don't want to get you into trouble.
No, go for it.
But does it annoy you that you do get those bloggers which have nothing to do with food?
Yeah.
And they are just literally, this place is very nice. Thank you very much. Like,
yeah,
it's weird, no? But is that the fault of the blogger or is that the fault of the restaurant?
It's a bit of both. It's like a chicken and egg kind of scenario. The restaurants need to make sure that they're not working with those types of people. It's very clear. Like I follow a lot of bloggers, and you can see which ones are just in it for the money. I don't have anything against them. Like some people want to earn as much money and make it as much of a lucrative business as possible, and I get that. But like when I see food being served in a Tonka truck and getting poured onto a table with lots of like dry ice and stuff, I like immediately know the food's going to be terrible. And if you want to support that restaurant, promote it, go ahead. But like I'm going to say no to that.
Because the other thing I wanted to ask you is, within the realms of what you have been doing, has it ever sort of landed you in any hot water at all?
Yeah, like instantly. I got a scare really early on. I was mentioning it the other day. It was like, I basically went and reviewed a burger restaurant. It was it was just, I'm not going to go into too much detail. It was a burger restaurant. Came out of there, gave him a review, gave him a score, and posted it. Video done really well. Got a phone call a couple hours later, you need to take this down. This is terrible. I can't believe you've done this. I'm like, what are you talking about? How dare you give my burger a lower score than my competitors? Like, this is an outrage. Like, you need to go back. You need to correct my score. It has to be higher than my competitors. I'm very well connected in Dubai police. We will get you deported. We'll take legal action against you. Like, all of this stuff. And I'd been doing it for like 4 or 5 months, maybe. So I'm like, what on earth am I doing? So I didn't really know what to do at the time. I just appeased them. I was like, yeah, sure, I'll change the score. And that probably happened like 2-3 times after that, like different people, similar sort of reactions. So it kind of puts you off, like, as much as you want to be really objective and fair and as honest and truthful as possible, you have a couple of scares like that with the wrong people, and it really does kind of like, it shakes you up a little bit.
Absolutely. But Alex, I want to ask you, so at that time, you were doing it, you were being paid to review, or it was off your own back? That
was actually just an invite. That one in particular, he just invited me. But the fact that he'd invited me and I hadn't paid for my own food, he took that kind of reaction.
But I mean, it's quite scary.
Yeah. And then, like, I've only been blogging for 4 or 5 months. Like, I've never been in the industry. I know nothing about it. And then you start second guessing yourself, like, oh, hold on, am I doing something wrong here? Like, maybe you're not allowed to say negative things. And once it happens a couple more times after that, every time that you try and be like, okay, I'm going to be really honest in this review, and then something happens like that, it just puts you on the back foot and you start like really worrying about it. So,
but also you have not only the owners to contend with, you also have the PR to contend with, so on and so forth. So that's why I'm asking, because it's a very difficult position to be in.
Yeah.
But I just, because also when you review a restaurant, so I'm just trying to understand what type of person would threaten somebody like that when you're just giving a nice review. So when you started the reviews, how do you score the restaurant per se?
To be honest, like, the scoring, it was kind of off the cuff. You know, like, I'd go and eat at a load of places. Out of 10. Right. Out of 10. Okay. I'd just make the rating. To be honest, it wasn't a bad score. I think it was like a 7.5, which is
quite a decent, right?
For me, it's decent. But for them, it was, you know, the worst thing ever. Like, I think the competitor, I'd given them like an 8.1, and because of that, it was just, they went ballistic. Yeah. So, and it's, how do you judge it? Like, I've always said from the start, I'm not a chef. I'm not a food critic. Like, I'm just a normal guy that's trying to help, like, you guys find places to eat and help the restaurants get a bit more, like, awareness to new openings, things like that.
So originally, anyway, from the get-go, that was what you wanted to achieve on the platform, right?
Yeah.
Help small eateries out.
That was it. Like, when you look at it, came from COVID. And it was, you know, I'm getting packaging with "thank you so much for supporting our restaurant. Every little helps in this really troubling time." The whole thing started from, like, trying to drive a bit more footfall to the right restaurants.
Right.
Places that I love, like High Joint, Pitfire Pizza, Pickled. Like, these are like the British places, like the expat places. But it was just trying to get more people in the door. Vietnamese foodies, all that type of stuff. So,
which is a noble cause in itself, anyway.
It is. I think that's where it genuinely, that's where it came from at the start. But then, obviously, when the business aspect comes in, that's when you get things start pulling your attention.
No, absolutely. But also at the same time, your followers are trusting you.
Yes.
To give them the right amount of information, the right content. And if you do rate somebody a 7.5, they're going to say, oh, actually, it's pretty good. Let's go and check it out.
Yeah.
But if you gave this restaurant a 10, and then it happened to be a 2, then you lose your
credibility. Yeah, you lose credibility. And every time, you know, it only takes one of those places and people will just unfollow you, and you will, you know, the word starts to spread. So you have to be really, really careful. Like, the places that I go to are either I really enjoy them and I know everyone's going to love them, or it's, I might not enjoy them, but I know a lot of other people will. Like, there's some foods out there which I just flat out don't enjoy, but I know people absolutely love them.
Yeah.
So it's like, you know, I went to this lamb's brain restaurant,
right?
Shaun the Sheep. It's like
it's called Shaun the Sheep.
Shaun the Sheep, Knight-Paccheco restaurant, Iranian brain restaurant.
Right.
Like, it's not my taste at all. Like, really gamey, really awfully kind of flavour. I don't like it. It's like, it wasn't really my cup of tea. But then I know that there's Iranians, Afghanis, Iraqis that absolutely love this food. So I'm still going to promote it. Just because I don't like it doesn't mean that I don't think my audience will. But like, if I go to a place and I know I don't enjoy it and there's no chance my followers are going to enjoy it, flat out, just like, give them money back if they've paid. We're not doing it.
Wow. But Also, the other thing I wanted to sort of ask you is, what's particularly interesting about your page and what you do is that I've noticed you don't necessarily focus on the big boys. You know, you focus on the sort of smaller eateries.
Yeah.
And I think that's amazing because it tells a completely different story to what everybody else sees.
That's what I really enjoy. Is like I'm in a food group on WhatsApp, and we're always trying to find like really hidden gems. Like yesterday I was in International City, went around like 4 restaurants in International City. Can't even pronounce the name of the restaurants, but yeah.
Hidden gems, right?
Completely hidden gems. So like this is what I really enjoy doing. I love finding that food. I love sharing it with people. When people go and have a good experience, like it lights me up. It's really the whole reason that I do this. And I feel like the big restaurants, you know, they have PR and they have press, and they're going to get footfall regardless. Like you don't need me to tell you Zoom or LPM is good. Like you're going to go and you're going to have a great meal regardless. So it's always trying to focus on like the hidden gems, the smaller eateries, but they're hard to find. It takes a lot of time. Because
also, you've tasted thousands of things.
Yeah,
you know, but what are the at the moment right now? Where are the areas where people should sort of dine to find those hidden gems?
To be honest, like it depends what you're looking for. I still stand like JLT is one of the best food hubs that we've got in the city. Like JLT has got so many hidden gems in it, really, really good quality, great Thai food, great Indian food, great Pakistani food, Satwa, also like Satwa and Karama, great like desi food. I think Al Sakal is up and coming. I think Al Sakal is going to be, if they just, you know, just get a few good brands in there, maybe let booze come into Al Sakal. You could make like a Soho of London there, and I think it would just be really, really cool.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
But I think Dubai's food scene at the moment it's just booming. It's crazy.
Yeah,
like,
it is,
isn't it?
It's. I mean, ever since I came here, there was 12 years ago. There was no guide, anything like that.
Yeah.
There was no homegrown.
No,
it was all the big names, as you said.
Fridays,
Zuma, LPM, all that kind of stuff. And ever since the guide came, it's obviously exploded. But previously to that, it was there.
Yeah,
you know. And I think now Dubai's become such a culinary hub. Overall,
yeah,
and it's phenomenal, but also it's great to see that you're also championing the smaller guys.
Yeah, see, I mentioned it a million times on the podcast, like people get sick of it, but like I spend a lot of time in Borough Market every time I go back to London, like Spitalfields Market and stuff, and like you go there and you've just got little tiny tents with a pop-up table and maybe a gas cooker or a flat griddle, and they're just serving awesome, like proper rustic food, and it's great. And then the street food scene in like a place like London is unbelievable. And then you come to Dubai and we don't have that street food scene unless you go to like a Satwa or Karama, and it's not the kind of street food, it's not international street food, it's like from a couple of regions. So I'm really want to champion that side. Like I love Michelin Guide being here, it's great, but like give me a big street food hub and I'd love it. I just spend all day there.
So then what are your thoughts on Time Out Market then?
I thought they'd done it really well. Like it's a really good start. Good atmosphere, looks great. You've got some really good homegrown vendors there. The problem is like I look at places like Penelope from Fusion Ceviche.
Yep.
You know, she's running supper clubs in her house for years. Then she can eventually make it into having her own restaurant. You should have the Penelopes, like the people who are running supper clubs, that the real hidden places. They should have a space where they can come in and experiment and see if they can get good traction with customers and stuff, because that's where the really good food is going to come from. Not a place that's already super popular.
Right.
And then they just have a new location down south.
So basically, more kind of underground concepts, which are solid, amazing, and just to give them that specific platform.
I've said, like, give me a warehouse in Al Quoz, AC it, valet parking, and license for booze, and I'll fill it with 300, 400, 500 vendors. And if they're bad, we'll ship them out, we'll get new ones in. But it'd be like a food market on a Sunday in the UK type of thing.
But it must be, people must be thinking about it, surely. It must be in the works somewhere. Because there is this... Okay, so if we talk about supper clubs, another one. Yeah. Supper clubs is something which, again, is underground.
Yeah.
But kind of like a fight club. No one talks about it.
Yeah, exactly.
But when you experience it, you've got some phenomenal home chefs.
Yeah.
Right?
Great home chefs, really good hosts, like understand like experiential dining better than some of the restaurants that like we go to. So why are they having to do it in their apartments? You know, like, why not give them the space where they can invite, instead of 10 people down, they can cater for 30 or 40 people if they feel comfortable doing that. And I think the trajectory of their restaurant would just be accelerated so much more.
Yeah, I mean, it's scary.
Yeah.
Because if you look at somebody like Neha from Kinoya,
yes,
and she's the classic example, she was doing it supposedly, I think, 6 days a week.
Yeah.
To the point that she had such a huge waiting list that they were like, okay, we have to open.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, Neha done it perfectly. Like, she'd already built the community and the following. And then as soon as she popped up the restaurant, it was always going to be a success. That's a great way to do it. But I feel like if she had a space to serve her ramen to the general public where people could just come in and try it, she probably would have had a restaurant, 5 years ago?
Yeah. So then look, if we get back to what you're currently doing, how is it then that you go from having the 400 to then the following that you have now?
Yes.
How do people how do companies approach you?
To be honest, we do everything through Instagram. They just message, so like, we've got a campaign, we've got a new restaurant launching, we've got a new menu launching, we'd love you to come down and do some coverage. Like, I vet like every single one. I'll have a look at their like Google reviews. I will look at Zomato, TripAdvisor, look through all their Instagram, read the reviews on Google one by one to see if I
really.
Yeah, because a lot of people now pay for fake reviews. They pay for fake followers. So you look at a restaurant and they're like, oh, they've got like 50k followers, and then I can tell very, very quickly if they paid for followers, paid for engagement, and if they've done any of that, red flag. Like, I'm probably not going to go there. And then as a last resort, I will drop it in my food group and be like, look, I'm thinking about checking this place out. Has anyone been? And these guys will tell me like, yeah, it's good or it's not good. And then we just steer clear of it.
Wow. So once a place is trusted in your eyes, how does it work regarding the different packages or what they ask you? So I'm not asking you about money, but how does it work? So
it's different. Like, when we started, we'd have like 3 packages, which is like entry level, mid one, and then a higher package. And then like everyone takes the middle one. And then we would just like increase the pricing or decrease it if you wanted higher value or lower value. Right. So that was when we first started. It was just me and my sister basically running that.
Okay.
And then I think it was middle of last year, I signed with 971, who are an influencer agency over here. And I'd never really given the business side to anyone, so I was being quite protective at the start. But like, once I actually committed to them and kind of really did give them everything, like, they've just been able to put me in touch with brands that I would never ever like think of working with. Like, it sounds really stupid, but like, working with McDonald's when I was a kid, I used to love McDonald's and literally eat it like every single day. For me, like, everyone's like, oh, he's a sellout. He's working with McDonald's. Like, I love McDonald's. I've always loved McDonald's. And the chance to like work with a brand like that, it was fantastic.
Do you know what's funny, right? So I don't know if you've heard, but in the UK, there's this 2-star Michelin chef, and he's working in North Wales.
Okay.
And so he has his own blog post on rating all McDonald's.
Oh, around the world.
Around the world and in the UK.
Yeah.
And so no disrespect to McDonald's, even though all the top boys are smashing it down. But for a reason, because they're consistent.
Yeah, and it's nostalgic. Like, a lot of people grew up with it, and I've been to like a couple of burger places. I'm like, you know what this reminds me of? I'm like, this reminds me of a Big Mac, and they're like, thank God, that's exactly what we were going for. So it's like, it's not even an insult. Some people actually like strive to be like it.
Yeah, but then the other thing I wanted to ask you is, you eat a lot of food. How does your health get involved? Like, what do you do for that? Because that's not easy. No. You're having like meat, burgers, could be fried chicken one day, noodles the next. How does it work?
Like, thank God, like, when I first started, it was all burgers. I was eating like 6 or 7 burgers a week.
Sick and tired of that.
Yeah, exactly. But then once you start posting about burger places, there's a million burger joints. They all start messaging you, and then you go around and you become like a burger expert, which is not really a niche you want to get into. Thankfully now I enjoy like a lot more variety of food. But yeah, for me, it's just calories in, calories out. Like, I'll go to the gym, I'll do a workout, and I'll figure out, okay, I can eat this much today.
Right.
Like, yesterday I went to 4 Chinese restaurants in International City. Came back. I'm not having dinner that night because I think I did snack a bit of the Chinese.
Well, that's all right. But predominantly let's say your eating window is from like 11?
No, like 1, normally like 1 until 5.
Okay.
Yeah.
But so you could be shooting content for four different restaurants?
Yeah, normally three restaurants. Peak season, it'll be 3 or 4 restaurants a day, like 5 days a week.
And you're controlling your like cholesterol, sugar levels, all that kind of stuff?
I haven't really checked on that. I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, if I just work out like at least 3 to 4 times a week and I do enough cardio and I drink enough water, I hope it keeps the rest of it down.
Because you're in good shape, because it's not easy. I mean, some of the influencers that you see, they are like rather large.
I watched them increase in size as well. I messaged them like, you need to go easy on that food. Like some foods are just like naturally way more calorific, so I try and steer clear of them.
But what is the main aim now?
Yeah,
you know, because originally it was kind of like I don't want to say hobby, but something that you enjoyed. And now you're running a serious business.
Yeah.
What's the aspirations for the business long term?
To be honest, like I had a bit of a not existential crisis, but I hit like a bit of a rut a couple of months back because I had a list of all the places I wanted to go to. I've done them all. I feel like there's not really that much that excites me in Dubai anymore, except like new openings that come in and then you go and try them, and obviously that's exciting. And then you aim to get like you imagine getting 100,000 followers. Like, that's like, imagine if I get there. And you get 100,000, then you get 200,000, then you're close to getting 300,000. And it's like, you can't just chase figures because that just becomes mundane. So you're like, well, what am I doing this for? I'm just like going to restaurants every single week just basically to get paid for it. So I had a bit of a rethink, and then I spoke with my career counselor, and she was like, look, what's the next stage of this? And it's kind of multifaceted. One of the pillars is I want to improve the quality of the food bloggers in this city. Mm-hmm. And the hope for that is going to release like a course training you on everything I've learned. So what to do, what not to do, how to monetize correctly, what brands to work with and not, etc. So that's something that I've been working on. The next one is better assisting people to find the right places to eat. I'll be launching a guide in a couple of months with all my like top eateries that I found over the last like 3.5 years. The one after that is trying to drive discussion and change the Dubai food scene for the better. So that's why we launched Savage Appetites. So it's like trying to have honest discussions and try and change the Dubai food scene how we think it should be changed. And then obviously just the blog, maybe expand it internationally, look at different types of content, etc., etc. So
then I want to break down a few things that you've just mentioned.
Sure.
So firstly, I think the course thing is amazing idea.
Okay, good.
Because my job as a chef here in the region is to keep attracting younger talents to come into the industry because it's a dying industry.
Okay, all right.
I'll be honest, right? But part of the industry is social media.
Yes.
Now, and you cannot ignore it.
You can't.
So I think doing a course like that, in the beginning, why did you want to do this, especially the course part of it? Yeah,
so for me it was I feel like I've accumulated a lot of knowledge. Like I've learned from a ton of experiences, and when I look back to the start of my journey, I would do a million things differently because like I just know so much more than I do now. And I see a lot of bloggers on Instagram predominantly, and they're doing a really good job, but I can tell they're really struggling to like turn it into a career. It's just a hobby. They're spending a lot of money on it and it's not really going anywhere. And I can kind of take one glance there and instantly like have an idea, like I think this is what they should do differently. So if I can improve the quality of the food bloggers, like help tutor them and mentor them, then hopefully they can then support the restaurant industry, because it is a symbiotic relationship. A lot of influencers, they don't get that. They're doing it for the wrong reasons. Like your job as an influencer is to support restaurants and to support people finding good restaurants. That's your only job as like a food influencer in particular. It's not about you. It's not about the car you drive. It's not about the sunglasses you wear. Like that is your job, is to add value to the restaurants and to foodies.
So the ego needs to get out the window.
You need to get the ego out of the way. Like my thing, I encourage any food blogger watching, take the sunglasses off in your video. It's because for me, I feel like when you've got the sunglasses on, it's like a persona that you're trying to portray, and people don't want to see a persona. They want to see you. They want to understand who you are as a real person. And doing stupid things for views, like I've done it, we've all done it. Like it does, it unfortunately does get a lot of attention and it does get you views, but long term, you just lose your credibility.
So what would you say then are the top 3 things that food bloggers that you've seen get wrong?
Video is way too long. Like, you got to realize how these platforms work. It's all about video, like retention. How much of the video gets viewed? That's the only thing. Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, that's all they care about.
So what's the secret sauce?
So you've got to think about how you can encourage people to, number one is stop scrolling. So you need a good hook. So first 3 seconds you need, and I say this to restaurants, like, okay, what's my hook today? If you can't even tell me what's the reason for me to come to your restaurant, how am I going to then communicate it? Like, I need something to grasp on. It needs to be, and it doesn't have to be the biggest this or the stupidest this, but it's like, I produced this best dish. Like, we done like lutipolo, like this Iranian dish for Iranish the other week. Can't find it anywhere else in the city. Can't find it in Dubai. This is the only place that does that. I'm like, instantly, that's my hook.
Okay.
Post the video, over 1 million views. And like,
No
in a
way.
week, oh yeah, just like that. I was making the video and I was like, this isn't even my best video, but I know it's got a great hook. And then the next thing is like, you've got to think what you can do to encourage people to keep watching through the video. Are you going to review multiple dishes? Are you going to review 3 places in a video, my top 3 burger spots, for example? But like, the aim is get people to watch it all the way to the end. And number 3 is like, add value, like inform and entertain. That's it. Leave the ego out of it. Don't do stupid stuff. Just inform people or entertain them.
So whether it's on Instagram or TikTok, how long should this video, once you've got those 3 things, how long should those videos be?
It really depends. Like, I think on Instagram, you can be safe anywhere up to 30 seconds. Like 30 seconds is the absolute push. And we say to restaurants, it's like, don't serve me 10 dishes because I can't cram it in 30 seconds. Like, pick 3 dishes. For TikTok, it's a little bit different. I'd say up to 15 seconds.
Whoa.
Yeah.
So half the time.
Yeah, and this was the problem that we had when we started, is how do I condense a 2.5 hour dining experience into a 15-second video? It becomes so difficult. And that's why.
But you found a way, right?
I found, a kind of a way. But I think, like, for me, YouTube is the future. Eventually, I will commit all my time to YouTube because I don't want to have to rush it to 15 seconds. It's you miss out on so much.
Right.
You know, you like miss out on speaking to the chef or like going in the kitchen or finding out about new dishes or like speaking to customers. You miss all of that in 15 seconds.
So then with the guide that's coming out, obviously it's nature. People are going to start comparing.
Yeah.
This guide and your guide, blah, 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 blah. But disregard what they say.
Yeah.
Why did you decide to come up with your own guide?
Because I had a lot of people saying, you know, we're hungry, we're looking at something to eat, and then we go on your page and there's no way to navigate it. We've just got to scroll through every single video and try and figure out what we want. And like half the places, we're not even in the right location. So we're looking at places down in International City, for example. So I wanted like a one-stop place. You load up, I'm in Al Barsha. What are the best places in Al Barsha? There it is. It's got a full description, best dishes to order. There's the price point. And then you can just literally go and tick them off. So it's super, super like clean. There's not much like noise on the platform. It's like basically like a Google Maps, but it's just, and I've said from the start, like no sponsored posts. Like restaurants aren't paying to get on that.
So when are you looking to launch that?
I'm working, I reckon within the next, midsummer midsummer.
Because also, I think it's absolutely needed, especially with all of the incredible places that you've reviewed and dined in.
Yeah.
Like, I want to go to the Afghani places, the Pakistani places, just like the weird places.
Yeah.
And I don't know where I can have a look at that.
That's it.
So I think that's amazing. But you must also get messaged a lot, whether it's on Instagram or WhatsApp. Where can I go for this?
I don't mind that. I actually enjoy that because those are the people that will really support you long term. It's like, you know, it's my wife's anniversary. We need something to go for dinner tonight. Like, this is my price point. And I can like, look, I can suggest 3-4 places. The only thing I don't do enough fine dining places.
We'll get onto that in a minute.
Yeah, I don't do enough fine dining, so I think I'm going to partner with another blogger in Dubai who has that knowledge, and then we'll put together like a low budget, casual, affordable dining spot guide, and then we'll put like a fine dining guide. Okay. So then you'll be covered like anywhere you need to know.
So before we get onto the fine dining, which is one of my questions, then regarding the podcast, again, why did you decide to go ahead and really push it out there?
So I've been thinking about launching a podcast right from the start. Like, I actually started a podcast about 3 years ago, and it was just me and the boys, and like we just had way too much to drink, basically. Never got off the ground. We were just way too battered. So, but it was my issue with it was food is such a visual thing. How do you then convey that in an audio format?
Right.
I didn't think it was possible. And it was coming back from Georgia. We had a 3.5-hour bus drive, and all I was doing was talking about food, and people were like, "You're making me so hungry." So I was like, okay, that was the first little like twitch. I was like, maybe you could do something.
3.5 hours is serious.
Oh yeah, exactly. So they already planned, like when they got back, they knew exactly where they were going to go. So I was like, you can do that if you're descriptive and you're motive. And then Taran, like my co-host, obviously came to me and he was like, look, have you thought about doing a podcast? And I was just way too busy at the time. Like I just couldn't take on another project. And he was like, look, I'll run it. He goes, like, it'll be my like project that I will run. I do all the branding for it. I'll do the episode plans. I'll do all the everything. Like, you just turn up and help me talk about food. And he's a massive foodie as well. And where I'm very just off the cuff, YOLO, he's very organized and disciplined, and he plans in advance. And we're a good like yin and yang. But the aim of the podcast is to have like unfiltered conversations about food. And it's like, I want people in like Dubai tourism to be listening to this podcast and try and like think, okay, maybe we should start doing things a little bit differently, especially in like the street food scene, like, you know, talking about having this food market and stuff. I want them to be like hearing about it. And if something's bad as well, we want to be comfortable talking about our bad experiences, because until you normalize that, everyone's going to keep saying everything's great. Like, we're not out to slander restaurants and say this place is bad and avoid this place, but we'll be respectful, but we do want to start opening the dialogue to say when we had a bad experience, so that people don't make the mistake and go there and spend their money and get ripped off, or, you know, because then it doesn't portray Dubai in the right light.
Oh, absolutely. And look, nobody wants to portray Dubai in the wrong light. It's all about, when it comes to the food space,
yeah,
it's all about celebrating, whether it's the fine dining or the local heroes, and that sort of thing. That's really important. But going back to the point that you said originally, when you reviewed this guy for 7.5, and I still can't get my head around why that's a bad thing. As a chef and getting critiqued all the time, there is a way of critiquing people. Yeah. Right? So you can do it constructively and respectfully, or you can do it in a hardcore way, and it's going to put people out of business, out of jobs.
Exactly, yeah.
And to your point is that you're absolutely right. When you say it's bad, it's not because you're trying to hurt the reputation of that person.
Not at all.
And you're actually trying to give them a piece of gold and say, look, this is what I think you can improve on. Yeah. For them to get to a better level.
Like, my parents own restaurants, my grandfather owned restaurants. Like, it's people's livelihoods, and people don't respect that. Like, if they want something bad, they want you to be explicit. It's terrible, don't go here. It's like, this is someone's livelihood. They've invested some of them, their life savings into getting this project off the ground. And for someone who's not a chef and not a food critic and hardly traveled the world to come in and then say this place is explicitly bad, and food is so subjective as well. Like, who am I to say that about a restaurant? Like, how much Afghani food have I eaten in my life? Probably like 2 places. So I think you have to take it with a pinch of salt.
But also, what people don't take into consideration is the human factor.
Exactly.
As in, what happened an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours before they went to that restaurant.
Yeah. Like, a prime example, like we posted about Samwan noodles when we first started. They blew up, done really well. They had queues like out the door, and then people like replying on the comments, we had to wait 3 hours for the food. It was outrageous. Like, 3 hours to get a seat at the table. And it's like, yeah, that's it. Another example, Big T Barbecue. He came in, he sells out. He sells out of brisket.
All the time.
Sells out of stuff because he spends all week preparing it, and when it's gone, it's gone. And people over here don't understand that. Like, they've queued all this time.
And also, he's not like a full-time chef. He has another job as well.
So it's like, it's people just, you need to think about it from the restaurant's perspective as well. A lot of people don't. So yeah, it's that human factor.
But then when you got onto Big T, then there was a serious incident.
Yeah.
Some people would say that happened when it comes to sort of, how should I put it? The paid awards.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's another thing that is also tricky to navigate.
But it's, you know, we've kind of said our piece on the Big T fiasco with the awards, but like, until he done that, how many people were actually talking about the fact that a lot of awards are paid?
Yeah.
And now I guarantee that a lot of awards companies are probably going to be like, look, we need to maybe rein it in or start being a little bit more careful about our votings and awards. And like, it drives the discussion, it drives movement in the right direction. Otherwise, people will always look after their best interests.
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely. Look, and earlier on in the series, we had David Tapley, who's the editor-in-chief of Fact magazine.
Okay, yeah.
And they don't, all of their awards, you cannot pay to get in.
Good.
You can't. So they have certain teams.
Yeah.
Then they'll have like verbal fights to see who's best, you know.
Good.
So it's actually quite amazing. And to hear that was very refreshing.
Yeah.
You know, so I think that's amazing.
But it's just like I have to balance the corporate side of it, like the business side with the organic side. They have to do exactly the same. You're running an award ceremony, but you're going to have restaurants in there that will offer you so much money and buy tables and support with sponsorship and all this type of stuff. And it's like, how do you balance that? Like, it's just about trying to get it right.
But then when it comes to the fine dining, why haven't you done that segment just yet?
So it was a decision right from the start. So, like I said before, I started just after COVID. People were conscious of like their finances, and they were probably going to go out and eat at affordable casual dining spots, maybe 2 or 3 times a week. But they were probably only going to do fine dining once every 2 weeks, once a month. So I was like, okay, in order for me to get the volume, I need to be going into this category. Also, when I first started, I got invited to the likes of Zuma, and it's like, you're never going to be able to make a business out of it because you're going to review Zuma. They'll have some food critic flown in from New York who's the most credible guy ever to come and do a piece. And that's, you know, they don't need to pay a local blogger for his, Zuma's great type of thing. So for me, it was like a decision right from the start. I'm just going to focus on the casual, affordable dining spots. They need my help. And also people want to find them more. They'll dine there more often. And also, I also don't feel like I've got the credibility to give reviews of fine dining restaurants. Like, I've probably only eaten at 3 Michelin-star restaurants in my life. Like, I'm not really an expert. I haven't been to Tokyo. I don't understand omakase. I'm not well-traveled enough, and I'm not a chef, and I'm not a critic. So I can't give the right advice, I feel, with fine dining. And also, I don't want to be eating at 8, 9 o'clock at night. I've said it. I have a terrible night's sleep. I don't want to, I hate wearing shirts. Like, I don't want to go in at 8, 9 o'clock and sit down at a restaurant and be there until midnight. So I'm like, it's just a choice. You've got to do what you enjoy. And I'd much rather go around International City in world-class Chinese food than go into a place in DIFC that I'm going to get some mediocre Chinese food at triple, quadruple price.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
But I think it's really refreshing, Alex, to hear you say that, because a lot of people would go completely the other way.
Yeah.
They want to go to the flashy places and dine and all that kind of stuff. But the other thing is, and again, no shade to food bloggers, but they wouldn't necessarily, and you come from a food background.
Yeah.
So you understand, and you've worked in a kitchen.
Yeah.
So it's different. But food bloggers who have never worked in the industry, how can they justify or tell you the technicalities of a Michelin-starred restaurant, the technicalities of hospitality? So that's also a tricky one to navigate, right?
I think the people that give the best critiques and advice are other chefs. Like, if Mohammed Orfali comes to your restaurant, he'll be able to give you way better advice and feedback and critique your food better than I would. And if he does a post saying how good your restaurant is, it carries that much more clout. So I think it's down to chefs to support chefs, especially at the Michelin star level. It's out of my hands. So there's really not much I can do. To your point, the people that, they want to only cover all of the Michelin star restaurants. I had one guy who's like, I've been to 35 this year. And I was like, fantastic. That's great. He goes, I really wish I could monetize it because it's costing me a fortune.
No joke.
It's expensive. I think, you have to think about how you can monetize it or why you want to do Michelin. Is it just because, is it your ego that you want to say that you've dined at every single restaurant around the world? Do you actually enjoy that food? Have you got the money to be able to support that habit? And if you have, then go and enjoy the best food in the world.
But also, I'm not being funny. If you know anything about Michelin star food, 50% of it, except if you're in Asia, is hardcore butter and cream. So if you're sitting through a degustation menu that has 30 courses, no, thank you. Thank you. So then, what are your predictions for sort of dining within the region when it comes to the street food scene?
Oh, there's my predictions, and then there's my dreams and my hopes.
All right, let's go for all three.
Yeah, so my predictions, I think Dubai, what normally happens if a place or a food does well, then you just get a million copycats. Like I said, like 3 years ago was probably burger phase.
Oh my God, the burger phase was mental.
The burger phase. How many people, open a burger joint or had burgers on their menu? And, thankfully the burger phase is dying off. I think the next phase is going to be smoked meat and sandwiches. Wise Guys and Rascals do well.
They do amazing, yeah.
There'll be hundreds of sandwich places open up next.
Yeah.
Big T does well. Watch a million copycats of smoked meat come off the back of that. The street food scene, I just hope there's a space where it's, the municipality comes in, they check the vendors, like they're preparing food, storing food safely, and then they just leave them to it. Charge what you want, have a small space, even if it's just cash only, just let them run cash only over the weekend, and then you just get that footfall, people coming in, they get to explore these new foods. That's my ultimate dream. And then alcohol license it.
Yeah. But then your name says Just Food DXB.
Yeah.
You are planning on going global,
Yeah.
I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Because you've got such incredible knowledge when it comes to the street food scene. Then when it comes to your presentation style,
Yes.
it's so passionate and genuine.
Yeah.
How do you want to go about going to different places?
The thing is I really want to take it international. Like, I want to spend more time in Saudi now that Saudi's F&B scene is like starting to boom. I want to go to Beirut. I want to go to Lebanon, like explore the country like of Lebanon. I want to go to Singapore and Hong Kong and all these places. I want to find the right guides that can take me there so that when I go there, I am highlighting the best of the best places.
Right.
And I think YouTube is the medium I need to grow in order to make that happen, because I'm not going to be able to go to Beirut and then make a business out of that. Like, it's, it will be content to grow the page.
Yes, yeah.
But if I can grow my YouTube and get monetized by YouTube, then the money's out of the question. I can just then travel freely to countries. But I'm also at that age where I'm like, traveling is a lot of work, isn't it? Like, you go, you have to
a lot of work.
Flights, hotels, you've got to pay for your camera guy, you've got to pay for his flights and hotels, you're going to spend a week there. It's number one, it's a big investment if you haven't got Netflix backing you. And also, it's just the time and all the food. Eating like 3-4 places
it's tough
every day for a week. It's a grind.
No, but the thing is that you have a specific gift that you didn't do journalism, right?
No.
But you really resonate with a lot of people with what you do, and your audience are also very engaging. So I think it can happen, but also there is a huge cost involved to it.
Yeah,
but then, coming closer to home, are there any other Emirates that you think are coming up within the food scene?
I think Abu Dhabi is definitely getting there. Like Abu Dhabi a couple of years ago, there was not really a food scene to be spoken of. I think now they're doing similar to Dubai, where they're getting the Michelin star chefs in there, and they'll go through that phase first of all, but then more homegrown concepts will come in. More like street food will start to kind of boom in Abu Dhabi. At the moment, it's people who've got a lot of money are buying up like beautiful restaurants there, and you know what I'm talking about. So it's I hope Abu Dhabi then comes. I don't really see any of the other Emirates having that much of a booming food scene, to be honest. If you go to the likes of Fujairah, it's a lot of like local restaurants for locals and stuff. I'd love them to come this way. I love RAK to then kind of boom. UAQ have got some great places, but just keep going more.
Wow. All right then, Chief. So look, we now have come to the quick fire questions, and I've made this specifically for you.
Okay, good.
So I'm not going to apologize. Even though you're not a chef, what's your favorite ingredient?
Oh, gosh. Oh. Oh God, that's literally put me on the back foot. Probably butter. Butter makes everything better.
All right. Tara Masalata or Tzatziki?
Oh, Tzatziki. My mum loves tarama.
So, Iranian kebab or shawarma?
Iranian kebab. Iranian food's the boss.
Fish and chips or Sunday roast?
I think I answered this. I think I said... No, Sunday roast, hands down.
Sunday roast?
Yeah.
TikTok or Instagram?
Instagram. TikTok's too addictive. Like, just stay clear of it if you can.
Right this moment,
yeah.
what are your favourite top 3 cuisines to eat?
Iranian, Thai, and South American, Peruvian.
So, why Iranian?
Iranian food is just, it's so hearty. It's so, like, comforting, the food. I don't think you could go to a place like Rivas or Huri's Kebab or Iranish and eat that food and not enjoy it regardless of where you're from. It's so accessible. You don't need a particular palate. Everyone just loves, like fatty kebabs with, like, beautiful rice dishes and great stews and vegetables and stuff. So,
do you think it's underrated?
Oh, massively underrated, especially for expats. Like, you know, you go to Italian restaurants, you go to French, you go to Spanish restaurants, like, go to some Iranian restaurants. You'll have some of the best food of your life.
Wow. Okay. Love that. At the moment, who would you say are your top 3 culinary heroes? And they don't necessarily need to be chefs.
Oh, I don't know their names. The guys on Top Jaw in the UK for content, you know, what's the best restaurant in London?
Yes.
Their content is flawless. Like, it is...
It's super fast, super engaging.
It's quick fire, it's engaging, but it's so informative. Like, I look to them, like, I really want to create content like them. I see how much they've grown in such a short space of time. Those guys are epic. I think local heroes like Chef Salam and Penelope from Fused and Ceviche and Shaw from Leela's Taqueria, like, what they've done for the industry and just brought, like, the love and the passion into their food. I love that. And then, like, global people like, you know, Trevor James, Mark Weens and Sonny on the YouTube scene, like, they still are at the forefront of YouTube content. I watch all of their stuff and I'm just like, I want to be you one day.
So then, from all of your travels or experiences, what's been the funniest incident that you've ever seen or been involved in?
To be honest, we went to Rome one time and we were, like, looking for the best pasta in Rome. Really difficult to do. Millions of places.
How do you do that?
Before I go on any holiday, I just sit and just, like, research every meal. Every meal is planned out, every location. And I was going through all these reviews and there was, like, 2 or 3 in contention, but there's one in particular and it said, you will have the best pasta of your life. The service is atrocious. Like, prepare, like, they are the angriest people you will ever be served by. Part of Just Food is like, I don't care about the service. Like, I just care about the food. So you walk into this thing, you've got the little Italian nonna. She's making pasta, rolling it by hand in the window, like, preparing it. It's absolutely packed, can barely get a table. The waiter is the rudest man I've ever engaged with. Like
super rude.
Angry, just, like, super angry, like, throwing dishes down on the table. What did I ask for? I think I was kind of scared of him. We got the pasta, it arrived, and he had some Parmesan cheese. My missus wanted a bit more Parmesan cheese. So she's like, do you mind asking him? I was like, I really don't want to ask him. So I was like, excuse me, can I get some more Parmesan cheese? He just goes off. He just lost it, started swearing at me, like, really pissed at me. Like, I was so petrified. The guy ate the pasta. Best pasta of my life.
No way.
Happy as Larry.
Really?
I'd recommend that restaurant to anyone. I think it's called, like, Asteria or something.
Oh, mate. But yeah. Okay. Crazy, no?
Yeah. But great food.
Wow. So what would be your biggest piece of advice for anyone wanting to become an influencer in the food space?
Okay. Number 1, try and resist the money aspect for as long as you can. Support yourself. Don't get greedy too early on. So many people just say yes to everything and you'll just lose your credibility. Number 2, make shorter videos, get people to watch them to the end, and also realize why you're doing this. Like, you have to add value to your audience. It's not about you. You're the vessel to convey information that allows your followers to find the right places. If you go in with that intention, you will do well. And be yourself. Be 100% yourself. Take the sunglasses off.
Yeah. But I think that's amazing advice because you normally wouldn't hear that, you know? So I'm looking forward to when the course comes out. I'll buy it. What would you say to 16-year-old Alex Augusti?
Do it quicker. Do it sooner. I honestly, I wanted to be an actor when I was young. I wanted to go to, like, drama school and stuff, and I got pushed into the sales route. And it had the skills still help me now, but, like, I should have started this food page, like, as soon as I came to Dubai. I always thought, it was always in the back of my mind, I should have done it sooner.
For anyone who hasn't reached out to you, how can they get hold of you through social media?
Follow me mainly on Instagram, JustFoodDXB, also on Savage.Appetites. That's the podcast that Taz and I run together. Like, that's where you're going to find more in-depth conversations about the places I visit. Instagram's going to be the quick fire that allow you to find places fast. But if you actually really want to understand the detail, the depth, the honest truth about these places, like, follow us on Savage.Appetites. So,
Alex, I just wanted to recap some of our conversation because it's been extraordinary from your childhood memories. I love the fact that, you know, I'm from Exeter.
Yeah.
So Devon, Cyprus, and now they've got 2 Michelin stars, by the way.
Oh, do
Cyprus,
they?
yeah.
Oh, really?
Simon Rogan got it just a couple of days ago.
Oh, no way.
It's amazing. Your education growing up, also being in the pub, surrounded by that food, I think is phenomenal. So then, of course, your journey into Dubai. I think the piece that really stuck out for me is the fact that you wanted to help businesses during COVID, which I think is absolutely amazing, and real hats off to you for doing that, because you're still doing that.
Yeah.
And again, thank you very much for all of the tips for anyone within the social media space that's trying to get in there.
Yeah.
I think that those tips that you've given us is really amazing, and I'm going to do the same. Good. My videos are about 45 seconds to a minute, so I just need to cut them down.
Yeah.
So I'm going to do that. But honestly, on behalf of the Chef JKP podcast, thank you so much for taking the time to come in. I know you're extremely busy, but the very best of luck with the podcast.
Thank you very much.
It's amazing, super funny. I recommend anyone to listen to it because it is really, really funny and
a lot.
and informative.
Okay,
honestly, it's amazing. So thank you so much for coming in.
Hey, my pleasure. Thanks for having me. I love what you're doing. Keep doing what you're doing.